everybody wants to be set on fire, but nobody wants to burn.
Right.
Someone said that to me and I was like, I'm taking that.
That's good.
And it's true. And, you have failure when you do that. I've had a lot of it. And then you have those moments where you connect with that audience, or you have somebody that comes up to you. I've had people come up to me and said, I saw your show and I was able to do X, Y, and Z because of it. And it's like amazing.
Yeah.
So those moments are what drives me. Also, when people say, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it twice now. Watch out.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
All right, that is me. All right, that is me. I am Jimmy Honachik, and we are here with a very special, first of its kind, in-person podcast. And I couldn't be more excited at the guest that I have today for this event. Kate Hughes, thank you for coming on. There are so many aspects of you, and I cannot wait to dive into them.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's start with, I guess, what is newest in your life?
Oh my gosh, so many things. First of all, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
This is incredible. I'm glad that I'm the first guest here.
I am too.
Feel very special. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Newest thing. Yeah. So my husband and I and a couple of go-getters and creatives in the Lehigh Valley started an online publication. It's called Heartbeat Zine.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just want it to be this platform to share stories of local businesses, creatives, trailblazers, and that's how we want to start it. And then we want to grow it. So it's not specific to this area.
And you were telling me, I'm not hip enough to know this sort of thing, but zine is short for basically magazine.
It is. Yeah. That's what the cool kids are calling it these days.
And so, I mean, tell me more about it. It sounded really cool. Like you are reaching out to all sorts of people who are trailblazers, I guess.
Yeah. We really want to share stories of people that really go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean success how you normally view success. It's people that take chances, sort of risk takers, people that follow their dreams. Because I think there needs to be a community for that.
Yeah.
So we want to focus a lot on females in our area and beyond. We want to give a voice to people that might not be able to have that spotlight on them so much. So it's crazy. We've had so many people reach out to us and ask us, how can I help you? How can I work with you?
Yeah.
How can I share what you're doing? So we've just started. It's basically from scratch. So I don't know if you're out there in the social media world and having to start from scratch. It's quite something.
And the name of the zine is?
It's Heartbeat Zine.
Okay. And
so,
go ahead.
Oh yeah. So you're going to ask me how we came up with that.
Yes.
I wanted it to be heart because I wanted it to be stories of the heart, but we couldn't really find that available.
Okay.
And it's interesting. I talked to my dad a lot, probably too much. And he's always kind of alluding to, I give my heart to everything that I get involved with. And he's like, you're the heartbeat. You're the heartbeat. He said that repeatedly. My husband, same thing. He's a guy that just gives everything that he has into any project that he's involved with. And I thought, you know what, let's be the heartbeat. And I don't know if you know this, but your heartbeat, that's the first communication that you have with your parents.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the first thing.
Yeah.
That they hear. It's the first thing that you give them. And I don't know, it just really resonated with me. And I want this place to sort of, be a jumping off platform for people to share their stories and their journeys and, their failures and their successes, all of it.
Yeah.
We want all of it.
So let's dive into that. I mean, I know that failure is something that you don't shy away from.
Oh God, I'm so good at it. I'm so good at it. Yeah. it's interesting. I had this show. So I do stand-up comedy.
Okay.
And I had this show.
Which we're going to talk about. That's the scariest thing in the world to me. So I want to dive into that.
Yeah, it is scary for sure. And I forget who said it, but they said you have to do things that scare you.
Right.
And I'm like, mission accomplished. I do that on an hourly basis.
Yeah.
So I had this show that I had planned. It was for April 8th, 2022.
Okay.
And it was at the Steel Stacks. And when I do their one-woman shows, it's stand-up comedy, it's storytelling. I have images and videos that are displayed behind me on the huge screen, the movie screen. So I like doing that. I probably up until this point, I didn't realize that it was sort of like a distraction, kind of like from this. Yeah. And I felt like I needed it for, to give my best performance, which I still kind of feel that way, but I'm leading up to something. Anyway, due to circumstances within my control and also beyond my control, everything was on a PowerPoint, and my PowerPoint failed me.
No.
Live on stage.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was terrible. I mean,
and this is your crutch essentially, right? Like you were leaning on this.
Oh, heavily leaning. Yes. And so I get to the theater and I tell them my PowerPoint, it's in shambles.
Yeah.
So they help me for an hour, for longer than that, but they postponed the show an hour and people waited.
Wow.
They waited an hour. I go on.
So now you've got to be nervous. The stakes are high. So
high. And at the end of it, I was proposing to my now husband.
What?
That was, yes. And I was.
Were you freaking out? Like I'm freaking out listening to this story right now.
Legitimately, I was in the fetal position before the show. No joke.
Yeah.
And, my now husband didn't know what I was going to do. And he was trying to pick me up off the floor. And I kept saying, I cannot fail. I cannot fail.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the proposal. I knew that was going to go smoothly. I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about everything else leading up to that.
Yeah.
So I get on stage. I turn behind me thinking that the PowerPoint's going to work, and there was nothing behind me.
Oh my God.
So the movie screen was blank. And prior to that, I joked with the audience. I'm like, we're going to take some twists and turns. You're going to think we're going one way and we're actually going another way. And at some points we're going to be going in the wrong direction, but don't worry, we're going to get to where we're supposed to go.
Yeah.
So somehow the audience thought that I was doing that on purpose.
Would have been a great trick.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people I'm like, yeah, I planned that. That wasn't failure. Yeah. So, and I knew, again, I had that ace in my pocket at the end of the show.
Right.
But I got through the whole thing without the PowerPoint, without everything that I had, worked into the show. And I proposed. He obviously said yes, mostly because he was cornered. Right. I mean, what was he supposed to do? Say no?
In front of all those people.
In front of all those people, he had to say yes. And that was a time that I realized that I didn't need all the bells and whistles. Mm-hmm. People were with me throughout the whole show. They were laughing. Again, they thought that I did that on purpose. They're like, that was your trick. You did that on purpose. And I was pitching the show. I'm like, I'm going to do something no one's ever done before. But I didn't realize. And I did. I lived up to that. Yeah. So, I had to apologize to the theater. I was like, I'm so sorry. They were very forgiving. Yeah. They wanted me to come back. I don't know why.
Wow.
I do tend to sell out in this area, which is, it's just through begging, which obviously we're going to talk about that as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was the first time when you're stuck on stage. And I could have just been like, okay, we can't do this show.
Right.
I could have. But I knew I had to get to my dad had flown in from Florida. Oh, the theater was packed, 250 people.
The stakes were high.
Stakes were very high. And no one asked for a refund, which was great.
But like you said, they were with you the whole time.
They were.
And I think something in the short time that I've known you that has come across is authenticity. Like you're not hiding who you are.
No.
When you meet Kate, you get Kate.
Unfortunately. Sorry about that. Yeah.
But talk to how important that is to you and how that's kind of, I guess, steered you through your career.
It's interesting. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I understand that. Nobody is, right? I don't know how to be any other way. I just don't. I joke. People are like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "Pull up a chair, sit down." So this morning, and I just go into this long dissertation. I can't say like, "I'm fine. How are you?" I'm not just not programmed that way. And I have a lot of really, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use the word intimate relationships with people. I know them on a level where they feel like they can be open and honest with me. And I cherish those relationships. I mean, I lean into them when I need support, and I give support to the best of my ability. And I'm a very fortunate person. Now, I've just recently gotten married. So up until this point,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
I haven't had a husband, sort of been out there on my own, no children, lots of cats now, of course.
How many?
Now we're up to 4.
Wow.
It was a surprise. One was pregnant.
Oh, get out.
Yeah.
So that was a 2-for-1.
And then there was 4. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm very grateful, but I've had the time to nourish these relationships, and I can't sugarcoat things. And, sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not good.
Right.
But
in the things that you do, I think it is good. I mean, we talked about the zine, but you also do several other things, whether it's your radio show.
Yeah.
And I don't think people can hear right away, right? Like whether you're being genuine on there or authentic. And I think Kate is coming through on there. So
you listen?
I did a little bit of listening before this. I try to do
Thanks.
some research.
Thank you.
Yes. How long have you been doing the radio show?
Gosh, a very long time. It's a solid decade. It's probably like an 11-year decade.
That is awesome. And how did you get into that?
Well, I asked. So I was involved in a show, in a play.
Yeah.
And I thought, I knew this woman who, Rini on your radio. She was at WXLV. And I just went to her and I said, "Hey, I have this show coming up. Would there be ever an opportunity for me to come on and sort of talk about the show and the people that are involved?" And she's like, "Absolutely."
Wow.
So I went on, and I'm an expert talker. So it went really well.
Yeah.
And she said, "Come back anytime." And I said, "Careful what you wish for." And I kept asking every time I had a show, and she asked me to be her co-host.
Wow.
So I started co-hosting with her, and then the station offered me my own show.
That's really cool.
So I took it, and it's a 3-hour show, which sounds daunting. I
would think so. Yeah.
It is an opportunity. You know how painters have to paint and writers have to write and things like that. This really, it's been the biggest blessing to have it. It's an opportunity to empty out the mind.
Yeah.
I write things down during the week, things I think are funny, things that I think are important to talk about. And it just allows me this opportunity. No one's there. Mm-hmm. I'm in a room by myself.
Yeah.
And for 2 hours, I do that. I play music in between. And then the last hour, I typically bring a guest in. That sort of came to a halt when the pandemic hit. And just recently, I've restarted bringing guests in throughout the Lehigh Valley.
What do you look for in a guest?
Same kind of thing with the zine. I love people who just really just go for it. I have a thing for artists, married one. So, actors, business owners, artists, lots of artists, musicians. I had some great musicians come in and they perform for you live.
That's really cool.
And it's just so cool to share that experience. And it's just like this. It's just, and it's so funny. People come in and they're always so nervous.
Yeah.
And I always say, we're just having conversation with the microphone. It's, just a normal conversation. But it's been the biggest gift. It's helped me become an excellent communicator. And with communication, as you know, you have to listen, which is what you've been doing right now. Sorry, I just can't stop talking. And I love Terry Gross. Do you know Terry Gross?
Yeah.
I got to meet her.
Did you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Oh, gosh. She is. So you know how.
She's got like the best interview voice in the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was very vulnerable. It was this event in the Lehigh Valley about breaking the glass ceiling for women. So she came in and I just had in my head this vision of her. I listened to her for years and I thought in my head, she looks like Wonder Woman. She is Linda Carter.
Right.
She is Wonder Woman. Right. So I meet her and she's actually shorter than me.
Oh, get out.
I was like, taller than Terry. Gross. I was so proud of myself for that. But I went up to her and I said, I'm a huge fan, which I'm sure she hears all the time. And she talked about really listening to people. And she did a lot of the interviews where it was just her and they were phoned in.
Okay.
So she talked about having to listen for the pauses because sometimes they're just, pauses in between thoughts.
Right.
And she said it was very important to listen for those, to like let them end their thoughts on their time.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to her voice when she first started, she said she sounded like Minnie Mouse. And she played these clips for us and her voice was much higher. And as we get older, our voice drops. But listening is such an important part of podcasts, radio shows, but mostly of communication.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful. I know I keep saying that, but I really am and I listen back and I listen, oh, my voice is too high or too low or too much of a pause. And I also know that if you talk a certain way, I don't know what it's called, but the upending of the sentences.
Yes.
A lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak like that, people tend to listen to how you're speaking and not so much what you're saying.
I'm not going to be able to do the rest of this interview. I'm just going to be listening to how I'm speaking the whole time.
Okay, good. I got in your head. Perfect.
Yes. But the radio show, I mean, that sounds like a dream, like almost like your playground where you get to do what you want. It's like a therapy session.
It is.
It is like getting to meet interesting people.
Yes.
And when does it air? Like when can I listen to it? Or is it, I just go on to, I guess, tell me how.
Sure. It's on iHeartRadio. It's WXLV are the call letters, and it's every Monday from 12 to 3 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's live.
Wow. Does that scare you?
Not at all. And
what does scare you? Let's dive into that. Like all I'm getting from this
gosh.
is you are a risk taker and you're not afraid.
I am petrified.
Are you?
Well, not the radio because no one's looking at me. I have a real problem. I can't walk through a restaurant and go to the bathroom by myself.
Really?
Yeah. Just because when you walk through a room, people they just turn.
Yeah,
it's just natural.
That's me. I stare like,
yeah.
We were saying, if there's a distraction, I'm looking.
You're looking at it.
Yeah. So
same.
I'm sorry for when you go to the bathroom.
It's okay. So I have to bring a buddy with me. I never go to the bathroom by myself. Wow. But being on stage for me is different. It's like, it's okay. Like I'm in control of that. Yeah. Oh, look at me now kind of thing. And which sounds crazy, but yeah, I was painfully shy growing up, painfully shy.
I would not have guessed that.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how I got out of that, I started working for McDonald's where I had to shout across the room, can I help someone? Which I never thought I would be able to do.
Yeah. And
that job taught me, I've learned so much from all the jobs that I have. And when I think you get to be a certain age and you look back at things and you're like, well, that really helped me do this.
Yeah.
I was a dancer.
Really?
I would hide in the closet before dance class because I didn't want to go.
Oh, wow.
I hated rehearsing.
Yeah.
Still hate rehearsing to this day.
The performing you're okay with. It's the rehearsing?
Love the performing. Wow. That spotlight. Oh, there is nothing like that. And that is when I feel the most alive. And with that, when the light's right, you can't see anybody.
Right. It is just you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that feels, I don't know, it's just something about that I've always really loved and gravitated towards. And then I started acting a little bit and I've gotten commercials. I've never really auditioned for things.
Yeah.
It's interesting. People have come to me again, just because
it's about who you know, right? Like,
yeah.
And I don't mean that in any sort of, I don't know, like Machiavellian way, but like you have that empathy and you've been meeting these people and listening to them and develop those relationships where they go, oh, Kate would be the right person for this.
I'm like, you must be desperate. But to get back to the original question, what scares me before I go on stage, I am petrified. The night before my very first one-woman show, I'm a yes man. I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Yeah. And then I'm like, what the heck did I sign up for? The night before my show, I very much have that imposter syndrome still to this day. Yeah. And I think, like, why can't I just be normal? Like, who do I think I am? Why do I think I could do this? I'm never going to be able to pull this off kind of thing. And you get up there. I mean, I am backstage and was like, oh, this is a bad idea. And then I get out and it's that live audience, there is just something about that when they're with you, you can feel the energy and you're safe.
Yeah.
And for me, since that moment, I realized it's been this exchange of love. Like I give my heart to it. People respond to that. They give their heart back. And it's this way that you can exchange love and no one gets hurt.
Yeah.
And that has been, again, just this huge gift in my life.
That's a really beautiful way to refer to it, right? Like that art, the giving of art is an act of love in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
The deepest this podcast has ever gotten, by the way.
You're welcome.
But so I think of stand-up, like you're talking about this safe space. I feel like stand-up's not always this safe space.
No, it's not.
How do you do it? I am so scared of that idea of going up there and just all the things that could go wrong.
Well, that's why you should do it. Yeah, I'm scared every time.
Not all as fearless as you are.
I wouldn't say I'm fearless. I actually gave a talk at a high school, and I said yes. And as I'm walking into the high school, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are high school kids like? They're going to chew me up and spit me out.
Yeah.
I was petrified, more so than ever going on stage. And at the end, these kids were asking me questions. And this one girl said to me, are you always this confident? And I said, I am scared to death right now. I was so afraid coming here today. I didn't know what high school kids were like. And I tend to say yes. And then as I'm driving there or dressed in a carrot costume, I'm like, why am I doing this? What was I thinking? But I'm sorry. What was the original question? You said, stand-up comedy. How did I start? So I was waitressing back in the day, and I was always cracking up in the back with the waitresses and, the owner of the restaurant. And he had this event every year. It was ladies' night where he would get this female comedian. It was like a 5-course meal or something like that. It was all women. And he said to me, hey, would you want to open up for this comedian, do 5 minutes? And I was like, there's no way. I was like in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can pay you $50. I'm like, maybe I could do it. I could do that. So I practiced. I told no one. I invited my mom and my best friend, and they came. And
so again, you like really raising that bar for yourself and setting the stakes up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd never done it before, but it was something that was always of interest to me. And the owner of the restaurant gets out and he goes, we have a really great comedian here for you tonight. And then he said, but first. That was me. Yeah, I was the but first.
But first, yeah.
Yeah. So I came out and I nailed it. I told a couple of stories. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I got a standing ovation. I was up for a half hour.
What?
And I remember.
That's not how most people's first time goes.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And was in a very safe and loving place. Hindsight, right, is everything. And I got off that stage. I ran into that kitchen. I still had my waitressing uniform on. They call it servers now. And in my mind, I was like, I am going right to Hollywood. That is where I'm going right after my shift. And then I started doing gigs and it didn't go. It was kind of like chasing the dragon at that point.
Right.
And one stand-up event that I was doing, this drunk man was screaming, I suck, and you should get off the stage. And it really, I was in my early 20s, just very impressionable, trying something.
Yeah.
There aren't back then weren't a whole lot of female comedians.
Right.
And I got off the stage. I did what he said, and I stopped for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you didn't give up.
I didn't give up.
You're back.
I am back,
yes.
baby. I'm back. Yeah. Yeah. So I just feel at this point in my life, it's time. It's time to do it. That show where everything failed behind me really allowed me to see what I actually have, what I can bring to the table. I don't need all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it.
That's great. And where are you doing it?
That's a great question. We're doing a VIP sneak preview that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
You do things like, say, Zine, and you have VIP sneak previews. You're on such a different level of cool than I am. It's awesome. Yes.
Oh, well, I see it differently. We'll use the word cool.
Yeah.
So it's this really great space in Allentown. He's never done a stand-up comedy show there before. It's Pete Luna's. He does the Allentown facades. He does the buildings.
Okay. Yeah.
His space is incredible.
Wow.
So I went there and we were just like, this is amazing. So he's opening up this space for us, and we're doing a Friday and a Saturday night. And it's just a little taste of what I'm going to do when we hit the road in 2024 on the tour.
And you're going to hit the road.
Yes.
How long do you expect to be on the road?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, we're just doing sort of close by it. We're starting in the Lehigh Valley.
Yep.
I needed to clear my throat this whole time.
There's no real good opportunity to do that.
This never happens to me.
No.
I've been doing it. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so we want to do Philly, New York, Sellersville Theater is interested.
Yeah, that's a cool theater too.
It's a great theater. Yeah. I've done work at Emmaus Theater.
Okay.
Civic Theater, we really want to start there. They want us to start the tour at Civic Theater. So yeah, I'm working with Tiffany Sondergaard, TS Brand Elevation. Yeah. She has been a godsend, and she's done the press releases. We have my EPK. Do you know what that is?
I don't even know what that is. No.
That is an electronic press kit.
Oh yeah, you're official.
I'm super fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna see what we get, and we're just gonna go for it.
And it's. I mean, you're going around, but it's all these local connections that you have. If I were to guess, I would say you were born in the Lehigh Valley, but that's not the case, right?
No.
Like you've done
transplant.
Yeah, it's all that empathy, I think, though. Like you've developed these deep relationships with people. How did you come to the Valley?
I went to Cedar Crest College.
Okay.
Yeah, the deal was when I was a kid, I could stay home and commute and go to a co-ed school, or I could go away to an all-girls school. I was like, get me out of here. So I wanted to, it's college,
Yeah.
you want that experience. So I went to Cedar Crest, and my parents moved closer.
Oh, did they really?
They did. My dad's like, I can come see you for lunch. I was like, oh no.
Well, that's what I want at school. Thanks, Dad.
Right. So yeah, so I went to Cedar Crest, and I just never left the Valley after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you do coming out of Cedar Crest?
That's when back then I was working at the King George Inn.
Yeah.
That's
not far from here.
It's not.
No.
Through college. And gosh, I made such great money there.
Really?
Such great money.
Yeah.
That I stayed there even after I graduated for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I worked for Kids Piece for a while. I was there for a while. I kind of just bounced around. I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the more proper answer. I just took that time to see other countries.
That's great.
And I think that was such an invaluable experience to have, to be able to travel. I mean, I didn't invest in a good car.
No.
My apartment was, whatever it was, but I took great trips. I traveled a lot.
And doing it young, I think, is super important.
Yeah.
I think like even now when my wife and I go to a different country, it's a much different experience of the country and the culture than it was when I was, in my late 20s, early 20s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to France, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, the bread here is so good.
Yeah.
The espresso. I was like, I'm an artist. I belong here. Yeah, that was great.
So what drives you? What makes Kate get out of bed and do the things that she does?
What's really interesting, when you put yourself out there, and the older I get, the more I'm doing that. I don't know why. It opens the wound, for people to say, things that are not very kind. And I think I call them keyboard warriors,
Yes.
And I hear things, kind of roundabout, like that aren't very complimentary. But I have to imagine that people think, I wish I could sort of do that kind of thing. And I don't want to come across as, I don't think people are jealous of me. I know that it's not true, but to be able to put yourself out there, to, be able to be set on fire. Everybody wants to be set on fire, but nobody wants to burn.
Right.
Someone said that to me, and I was like, I'm taking that.
That's good.
And it's true. And, you have failure when you do that. I've had a lot of it. And then you have those moments where you connect with that audience, or you have somebody that comes up to you. I've had people come up to me and said, I saw your show and I was able to do X, Y, and Z because of it. And it's like amazing.
Yeah.
So those moments are what drives me. And also when people say, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it twice now. Watch out. I do remember very specifically, we had this show. It was the Vagina Monologues. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I know of them. That's as
great.
Much as I can tell you.
Every person on earth should see the Vagina Monologues. It's a great organization.
Yeah.
The mission is to help end violence against women and girls. So I was a big part of that for many, many years.
Wow.
Directing it, acting in it. And someone said to me, something about, it wasn't very complimentary. And they said, you should really, if you wanted to do that, you should probably just write your own show.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to. So I did.
Yeah.
It was very much in the same vein as the Vagina Monologues, just more updated kind of, we talked about Tinder and things.
Yeah.
Vagina Monologues, classic, so good. But they talk about like Burt Reynolds, and
right.
Some people don't know who he is anymore, unfortunately. And I wanted to make it relevant. And so I got the community involved, and we stood backstage, we all held hands, and I said, not everybody gets to do this. And we raised money for women who have been abused. And my best friend's daughter, she did a monologue all by herself. I think she was like 8 years old. Wow. And it was about Tinder. And coming from a child's perspective, Tinder seems...
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we practiced and we practiced and we practiced. And she got up on that stage, and that audience, they were laughing. And I knew what it was doing for her. Yeah. I knew it. And I remember, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. She ran backstage to me, and she's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And I was like, yeah, this is why we do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It builds confidence. I love working with people in our community. I love being a cheerleader for people. I love watching people shine.
Literal cheerleader sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. That's right. I believe in collaboration probably more than anything. There's no way that I've ever been able to accomplish anything without begging a few folks to help me. So, yeah.
I don't want to, toot your horn for you, but truly, like, what I'm getting out of this conversation is the word bravery. Like, you hear about the definition of, is it dumb or is it bravery? And the difference is like knowing it and being afraid of it. And you are afraid, but you're not afraid to push through that and get there if the goal at the other end is worth it. And it's inspiring to hear the stories.
Thank you for saying that. I don't look at it that way. I wish I did. I have to work on that. Yeah.
Because that's what I've gotten out of this.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And with that, like, we are running very low on time. So I got two things to do.
Okay.
The first one is our sponsor is Notch Modern Kitchen and Bar. And they do these awesome. Are you a fan?
Such a big fan.
Good. This is like the best reaction I've seen from it, because
really?
It's usually behind the screen.
Oh, okay.
This was awesome. And they do the cocktails where you tell them sort of what you're feeling, and then they put something together for you. So I like to ask people if we could put together the Kate cocktail.
Oh gosh,
it has been a week. You killed it in stand-up comedy.
Ooh, okay.
You did great, and now you're coming home. What are you reaching for? What is Kate's drink of choice?
Oh my gosh, I love. Well, first of all, if it's a wine night, Merlot.
Okay.
That is just my baby.
So you're not drinking Merlot.
Right. And then cocktail, I'm a Sex and City fan.
Really?
At Cosmo, Cosmopolitan.
That's good.
Yeah.
What's in a Cosmo?
It is mostly vodka.
That's a good start.
Cointreau, am I saying that correctly?
Okay.
A little splash of cranberry juice, and then some kind of garnish. It's usually like a lemon or a lime or something. Yeah. But it's in that fancy martini glass.
That's what's important.
Yeah.
It's got to look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that you want to hit that we didn't hit? Anything coming up that we should talk about before we wrap this up? Yes.
So like I said, look for my stand-up comedy tour. I feel so cool saying that.
That is the coolest thing that anyone said on
We'll see what happens. Is it? Okay. I'm the coolest. And so we have the sneak preview coming up. That's December 15th and 16th at 7 p.m. And I will be posting about it on my social media. It's I Hate Kate on Instagram, and I think it's just Kate Hughes on Facebook. I should know these things. And it's TS Brand Elevation. She has everything listed on her website, all the VIP dates and times and things like that. And
the zine, where do we find the zine?
Oh, the zine. Yeah. So that old thing that is on Instagram and Facebook, and it's at heartbeat_zine. And again, we're just starting out, but we have a great team.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm excited for what's next.
That's very cool. I am too. Thank you so much for coming on, Kate. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.